But just last week, we launched this digital activism platform. Did anybody see that or use it? Okay, that's good, because we got plenty of opportunity to expand its use. So essentially what it is it's a leading edge technology product that's a website, and you can go to the call to action on your phone. And for example, we've got a call to action out there that is asking the people who voted for the budget last week why they thought it was okay to vote for a budget that had $600 million in it for the billionaire Haslam family to move the stadium from downtown Cleveland to the suburbs. And what this does is you go to the site, and you put in your name and address and phone number and all that, and you hit enter, and you immediately send that email to all 49 Republicans who voted for that budget. Just like that. Then, you click the call button, and you can call every one of those people, their offices, and leave a voicemail, and just go right through that list of 49 or the ones you decide you want to call. And if you're doing it on a phone, it's your displeasure on their particular Twitter streams. They'll be tagged. And this is the kind of leading edge stuff that the folks that are doing, Move On, BLM, Hands Off, they're using technologies like this. There aren't very many conservative groups. We might be the first one, but luckily the founders of the company are pretty centrist or liberal. The easiest way to get you to the call to action. I can embed the call to action on the website tomorrow. We'll see if we can get a special page up for this issue specifically, and we'll put it in the menu on the home page. I will send a special email out to folks and a special text out to people to let them know what we're doing, so you can take a look at it. I'll try to get it done tomorrow.
All right. Give me some information, I'll put it on the t-shirt.
Okay, we'll do that. It's GFI. The state of Ohio, based on a constitutional amendment that we voted for years ago, has to have a balanced budget. The only way you can take on debt is to change the Constitution, which is why this is an issue. The legislature could not do this without our voting approval. And I come back to you all the time for this. That's not true either. This is for 10 years and then it expires and we'll have to do this again. Now it's very interesting to me that they've known for 10 years that the election gets through that fast. It's chosen and doesn't have a president being chosen. So the turnout's going to be maybe 5%. It's not going to be any skin off my nose whether or not this passes or doesn't, because we do need to be funding infrastructure. I just personally believe this is the wrong way. Think about what happens here and have them agree to fund projects with our money. So we got to go to a higher level of government in Columbus when we're spread over 88 counties in what, the 7th biggest state in the nation, and beg for our own tax money back. One of his constituents saying, if you don't have millions of dollars to fight this, you lose. Right? One of our elected representatives, he's kind of a doofus, but he's like Phil Plummer's little assistant. It's kind of funny, Phil Plummer. So they kind of tag team from that Dayton area, from around the state, put the material together. You can go to gfiohio.com, gfiohio.com, C-O-M, and on the menu, you can put in /issue 2, or you can go to the menu and over on the far right, there's an issue 2 tab in the menu. It's on every page, and you can click that and you can get to all the information, and we will continue to put more out there as we have it. Brian and I were talking in 2014 that reclassifies voting equipment as facilities, and that these bonds are being used to fund leases for ballot marking and tabulators for the boards of election around Ohio. I'm going to give you the number, and you can go take a look at it. Because it's 111.26. 111.26 in the Ohio Revised Code. I think it's the Ohio Revised Code because it doesn't have dashes, so it's not the administrative code. And I believe it was put into law in July. Now, we did the math. We need a swing if things go as they have the last 2 times of about 80,000 voters across the state. If we educate people who are going to vote, we defeat this thing going away, assuming the turnout is about 5%. And I think that would send a shockwave through Columbus. Because here's what would happen. Every township trustee, every city manager, every county commissioner would be on the phone to their legislators saying, what do we do now? Matthews, there's just a lack of either stunning incompetence or willful dishonesty when they talk about what's going on with this and the budget bill and everything else. And I don't know, I'm just at the point at 66 years old, I'm tired of these people lying to me, and I'm gonna I can barely keep up with them and my wife. I do not need friends in the Ohio legislature. So that's basically it. I mean, there are other aspects to this why either this thing winning or how close it is, because the margin of win the past 2 times this has been renewed has been 20 points. Person voted for it. There were a few people that didn't vote, but Rajan Tani, who's no longer a senator, was the only person in both chambers of the legislature who voted against this. It's something rotten in Denmark, and I think we figured out some of it, but as we look at more and more, it just compounds. So I would recommend you vote no, but you may choose to vote yes, and that's okay too. Molly. I don't think there's a single county, though, that has every precinct and every ward only issue 2. Because there's a lot of school levies and stuff like that intentionally put on during a primary like this so they can pass in the same manner. So I don't think it can be stopped in the Senate. I don't think anybody will have the will. I do know that governor's not happy with it, and he may line item veto it. And then the question becomes, do they feel so strongly about it they want to override the veto? That would be really interesting. I just don't think they'd be able to do it, but maybe. But the governor ends up being our only hope. So when I talked about these calls to action, and you don't care about these people because they do not care about us. They really don't. And falling in love with them or saying, oh, they're so good because I see them and I know, and they come and they bring cookies and stuff like that. Like Gail used to bake cookies everywhere she went. She was a cookie lady. She was an awful legislator. And luckily she got beat by Heidi Workman, who did vote against the $600 million. Pelting the Senate with, take this out. And if we get lots of people doing that, we may get them to consider it, because what we will probably not put in the email, but we may make this one customizable by better and better at this. And we will get bigger and bigger at this. That's our vision. And I think, you know, Molly, with your help and Linda's and others, Beth, every week we're scheming on how to get more and more people into our database, to get them these calls to action, to have them act from their couch. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to get out of your pajamas. Right? Leave your sweatpants on and hit the enter button. So that's what we're trying to do.
One of the things I saw in that issue right off, the disparity between the term that the money is available and the term that's paid back out.
Right. The third tranche, right, at the end of that, the first year is paid off on the first tranche. We're going to be paying forever, right? I mean, I don't know if all of it is, but we're working on a short 30 to 60. Yes. But here's what I would say. Taxes won't go up because of this. But if we had some, part of this thing with the stadium is really to look at these regional, like, they're trying to cobble together. If you're not getting your approval, this is all problematic. MPOs need to go. I'm going to try to do one that's shorter, that hits on all these things I talked about.
So if you go to the Geauga County Tea Party website, there's a tab there on the block. It gives the address put in paper, basically. It gives a bulleted list of reasons not to vote for you.
There you go.
There's also...
And I will be stealing that tomorrow and putting it on our...
Mark was saying, if you don't mind, all right.
He had one question.
All right, go ahead.
He was being patient.
The information we just signed up for on the board, when does that become effective, that we start getting your...
As soon as we get it into the system and decipher everybody's handwriting. So we'll probably take the images of those, turn it into a spreadsheet tomorrow, the next day, send it back to Skip and say, hey, can you validate these for me? Because I'm finding that we're getting about...
So you can get it. So there's two kinds of bonds. There's something called the general operating bond, which is what this is. And then there's a revenue bond. Generally, bonds are issued by your local communities when you're going to build a school. You say, we're going to do bonds, right? There's accountability in that. Because it's for a specific purpose, it's for a specific time, it's for a specific dollar amount. You know who to go hang if they screw it up, right? Including our Constitution with these stupid sections that expire. 2T, which is what this one is going to be yet one more ballot initiative in Section 2 in our Ohio Constitution. This is a sin, what we're doing. In addition to that, it creates a slush fund. If you read the language, it's on the Geauga County Tea Party website. Pass that out to people. You need to spread the word so people can get educated. We put ads in the papers, but only a few people in here saw the ads. We can't succeed unless we start getting the information out to people. But relative to this bond issue, think about this for a second. Ohio wants to create this $2.5 billion slush fund. We've got to live with this for 10 years or more. It is a sin what is going on in our State House. And Sarah Fowler and Steve Demetrio voted for this. I called Steve and I talked to him about it. I said, Steve, why did you ever vote for this? I wasn't paying attention. It's politics, right? It's probably a problem, the mess we got down in Columbus. So it's a slush fund that exists down in Columbus. What's not in there? What don't you see in there? What you don't see in there, I'll answer the question for you, is accountability. So somebody gets to make a decision who issues these bonds. So a township could do it, a city could do it, a county could do it. They could, Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Dayton. Who's going to get your money first? The entire state of Ohio pays for this. We have to pay the bonds back. And as Mark said, you know, what the other side claims is there's not
30 years out.
And so, you know, who knows what's going to happen with our general fund in the future? There could have to be a tax increase because the state may be handled by a Democrat. You know how they go, right? And then I'll shut up. In Geauga County, your roads are paid for by levies. In Chester Township, your roads are paid for by Chester levies. In the state of Ohio, your road and your infrastructure is paid by 38 cents a gallon gas tax. At the federal level, on federal roads or federalized roads, your infrastructure is paid for by the 18.5 cents a gallon on a credit card and having 50% interest on that stupid thing. So they're paying debt service out for 30 years on a road that they should have paid for immediately out of some tax fund that they had. So when you talk about why is this bad, it's bad because of the approach. It's not bad if they want to pay for infrastructure. What's bad is Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, it's a spending problem. How many times have we heard that? So this whole bond issue is corrupt at the core for a whole bunch of reasons. But just putting something into the Constitution, and there's one. So, because he doesn't have really clear thinking. He's a pure politician from the word go, doesn't do anything for the right reason, in my experience, in any case. So, with that said, I want to give you a little bit more information. I'm a little bit more passionate, perhaps, or whatever. So, did I say anything wrong?
We get like $500,000, $500,000 through Ohio Public Works Commission, usually in a rotation fashion, like every thought Ohio Public Works was good in that it kind of guarantees us this $500,000 every 5 years, which helps our community keep our levies down. However, I used to go to NOACA meetings as an alternate dollars when they're talking road projects. So it's fairly expensive, and yet when you hear NOACA and how they keep everything more in Cuyahoga County, disproportionately, Geauga is going to for the issue 2 monies. So my question is it better than just to say the message should be keep your road levy
in this room should pledge, even to yourself, to be responsible to get 5 to 10 people to vote on May 6th.
And think about this, all they need to do is get an absentee ballot.
Yes.
Just apply online for an absentee ballot, get the thing, fill it in, send it back in the ballot, and that's it. They don't even have to leave their house, but to go.
We need more Marks in this world.
Yeah.
And so we really do. So thank you, Mark, for coming up. Thanks for being here. John Mara, I've known for quite a while. John, I first met him when he owned a radio station out of Pontiac, Ohio. He's always been an engaged kind of guy. He's very interesting. He's got another story I'm going to invite him to talk about at some point, and that has to do with...
I did bring a couple copies of my book. I reversed cancer 14 years ago. I love to talk about it, so anyone wants to share it, I'd be glad to see you afterwards. Anyway, I want to go back on what Mark had said, though. I'm on the other side. I'm a city official, Mayor Timberlake, and we have to run our budget. We applied for OPWC money, and we were a couple of bonds and so forth. So they put us through this whole rigmarole to get this money, and then again, not everyone who applies it gets the money. So again, it's like, okay, if the money's there, it's grant money, it's supposed to be used for infrastructure, why don't you just distribute it all and give it to us without having to play games? Because again, not everybody gets it, and then it costs money. We're a small village. We have to pay for our engineer to put together a plan and submit all that paperwork, and it takes a lot to do that. You know, luckily we have a councilman who's very bright, and he basically, again, those are funds that we rely on for infrastructure, but then again, the way they distribute it, okay, is not fair and equitable. And it gets to the point of where we're at with this property tax issue, okay? Because again, the way they collect the tax is not fair and equitable. And being in the village myself, I just noticed too, because a lot of people say, well, how are we going to pay for the funding if we eliminate property taxes? You know, how are you going to pay for the services in your village? I said, very simple. I'll send everybody a bill at the end of the year, just like they send a property tax bill. But guess what? It'll be 2 people living in both houses. They pay $477 a year to Timberlake. Now, what services are offered different? One, because one's value, home value, is higher. Why this person actually bought on the lake 50 years ago. Maybe paid under $100,000 for the house. Now they have a value over $800,000. Why? Because basically doing it to reverse engineer and get the funding mainly to our schools, because again, we've got to follow where the money's going. So when you look at our property tax bill, in my case, 63, it was for the auditors. They had a meeting at a conference, and they were talking about it. They said, yeah, they went to one of the attorneys at the school board and says, look, you know, you guys are getting all this extra money without the vote of the people. He goes, I don't see a problem. These are the attorneys that, again, they work for the school district. And guess who pays those attorneys? We do. That's another thing. We pay for them to fight us, to contest us, and everything. And then they jack up our property values with this mass appraisal methodology, okay, which basically is a scam, okay, because they have all the data they use is corrupt. Because why? Because they're using a different methodology. They'll take the house that's sold, and what they'll do is they'll subtract the basic building cost to get a residual land value. So they can basically have to release our homes from the government control. They own it. Because as long as they're taxing it, they have control over it. Because again, we miss 3 consecutive pay cycles, they sell those tax liens to a third party. That third party has to hold them 1 year before he begins foreclosure proceedings. And that's what our system is. So that within 3 years, then I moved to Timberlake, bought a fixer-upper, major fixer-upper, put all the money I had into it to fix it up. Of course, now they're going to value it up and penalize me for it. And here I thought that, oh, I'm going to get away from it, a big tax of $13,000. Well, I started out at $5,000, now it's up to $10,000, okay, in 7 years. I mean, it just, I can't keep up. And again, it's because of this methodology they use. And then they and coerced them to vote for them. But anyway, if you vote for them, they put the collection on property that doesn't penalize us for failure to pay, or for the inability to pay. Again, it's not that we do it on purpose. Some people just can't afford to pay it. And then they're going to lose their house. You know, and then people say to me, okay, what do you do? Police department, the fire and EMS, we subcontract it out to Eastland. We pay them by population. So it's apples and oranges. So we're paying out by population, and we're collecting it, okay, by valuation. And again, that's not fair and equitable. But I can't raise anybody, and again, we can't raise the taxes because we only get 17% of property tax bill versus 63% going into schools. So if we try to raise it to get more, thing is this. Oh, well, he lives on the lake. Okay, well, yes, he does. But so he went and got a private appraisal, came in at $835,000. So he submitted it. They gave it to them. They honored that price, and they put on his tax bill. They reduced it from $1,019,000 to $835,000. And then what they did is they separated the land from the dwelling. The dwelling last year was in the $300,000 range. They reduced it to $275,000, and they took the land that was the $200,000 and raised it to $575,000. So they reversed it. And again, then what they do is they'll take the square footage of his property, divide how many dollars per square foot, okay, which basically comes out to $800,000 an acre, by the way. And then they have the property next door to us, the CEI plant, valued, it's 120 acres, prime on the lake, valued at $48,000 an acre. What's going on there? And again, someone made a deal back in 2018 and 19 with the power company because that's when their property land value went way down, which means their taxes went way down. I wonder who's governor then or who got something somewhere. I don't know. They're going to still pay the same amount, and the extras, the burden falls on us, the residents again. So all these little tricks that they do, and they just manipulate it. And what it comes down to is that we have these school districts submitting budgets, and then now they start out with these cash policies, okay? So they'll submit a budget and say, okay, how many days cash will you have reserved after 5 years if the money stopped coming in? And what they do is they say, well, we need to have like an increase that they're gonna have a 52-day reserve. Well, the problem with that is it's 8 days shy of the 60-day reserve cash policy they put in 4 months later. But when they submit that to the auditor has to basically make sure they meet their budgetary needs for that 5-year projection. So the valuations, of course, have to come in over 28%, and coincidentally, they come in at 30%. And Willoughby slaves, they get $8.8 million windfall without the vote of the people. My wife was there tonight, basically, at the school board meeting, telling them that they didn't have to take this increase because they don't have to accept that increase. They could basically try to trim their budget and work within their main increases. We don't vote for them. And again, these are the things that they're doing, these tricks they're playing. So I'm going to have Brian come up. He's going to talk, or actually, Leonard will come up first, and he's going to give us the biblical perspective on that. And like I said, then we're going to go into any questions and answers you have. So.
I wasn't actually a part of this program. I was just kind of affiliated, you know, but that's okay though. I can still make it fun, you know, because it's getting a little late. So you can put me on the clock. I'm going to do this in 5 minutes. You got it? All right. Now, first thing I want to do, I wanted to show you this because this is what I show to people when I start to collect signatures. Somehow, Americans do not understand ownership and liberty. It just goes right over their head. And we start talking about taxation. I'm like, can we back it up and start with the basics? So that's why I always show this. All right. Now if I can get it over here. All right. The reason why I follow the Constitution, I said, if you follow the Constitution, you see there's a problem with it, would you still do it? Another pause. Because I said, just because something's legal doesn't make it right. So then I started asking the question, do you understand the role of government? Another blank. But we vote for them all the time. These type of questions are not asked because they say, when you get a little too, if y'all got a problem with it, y'all got to talk to my mom about it. That's all I know. So that's just the way it is. All right. I want to show you something because I'm going to make this real short and sweet. I always show this because I'm trying to give people a visual of what has happened to us as individuals in this society. It didn't start yesterday, because sin didn't start yesterday. It started, you know, the whole formation of our country. About the closest thing we ever had to a Christian society was probably in the Puritan era. Other than that, it just slowly started to evolve. We just didn't know it. So, what you see here is the kids aren't learning it. And by the way, you don't need 12 years to educate a child. You know why? Because as soon as that child can walk and talk, he can start learning. We homeschooled. It didn't take us 12 years. And it didn't cost us $20,000 a year. We may have spent maybe $6,500 over a 10-year period. And they both got technical degrees and engineering degrees. How did that happen? They didn't go to public school, we homeschooled. Well, you can't do that. You're going to deprive your child of social interaction. I said, no, they're not. They know how to lie, cheat, and steal just like your children. They're no different. You got to tell them what right is. All right. Here's what true normal is supposed to look like. You see this? We got a society just going around in circles. We complain about it, but we don't really know what it should look like. And that's critical. Here's another thing. Responsibility. That word eludes us. I was just talking to him. They look at the consequences and said, I don't want to bring up a child in this. And I told him, don't ever let your circumstances or consequences dictate how you behave, because that's how you become making the abnormal normal. So you have to change that. And the young lady gave me a hug because she said, I can't believe somebody actually cares about us. It's important to me because I know where my Savior lies. I'm already taken care of. So I owe it to the next generation to make sure that they have what I've enjoyed. And that's important to me. Where are we going with the property tax? It took us a while to get here. I was always of the opinion that it just needs to go. You just gotta kill it. And then people say, well, how are you gonna pay for this? How are you gonna pay for this? And you know what? We have mechanisms out there, but I always tell people this. I want you to stop and think about what you just asked me. When have you ever known any point in history where the government has not found a way to tax you? That's the least.
Valuations went through. They knew there was going to be a 30% increase. Not sure how, other than reverse engineering. But what he also told me was the energy companies are trying to get out from paying any of the property taxes. Have all of these small energy hubs, throughout the state, and they're saying, we don't want to pay property tax. He sent me a video, and I posted it online at Lobbyists for Citizens. You can see it. It's part of a Zoom meeting. You got to put in the passcode to see it. But that was all 88 county auditors were there at the meeting talking about the property tax and the 20 mil floor. And the gentleman was standing up there and says, well, nobody understands the 20 mil floor. He was talking about the people. He says, well, heck, even some of us in this room don't understand the 20 mil. The 20 mil floor applies to school districts only. There's inside millage, that is, you don't get to vote on that inside millage, and then there's outside millage. You get to vote on general tax levies outside millage. I'll give you an example. If your school district has inside millage of 5.0 mils, a maximum of 10 mils, and that equals 1%. So if the school district had 5 mils of inside millage And they started out an outside millage, let's say when the school started, they started with maybe, I don't know, 30 mil levy. But